This video is going to cover assemblies as a review for the CSWA exam. We're going to first need to grab some files from the tech drive and put them into your folder that we'll need for that assembly. So we're going to go to the tech drive here, and under SolidWorks, if you open up SolidWorks, there's a CSWA sample exam, and this folder right here is what we need. I want you to right click and copy this, and then you're going to go to back into that tech folder, into your student folder, find your folder. I think I put one in here for myself, and I'm going to right click and just paste that file in there. So I've got a copy of both the instructions for this and the three parts that I'm going to need to build the assembly. Alright, I'm going to open up this sample exam, and I'd like you to do that as well. And we're going to move along to, I don't remember what page it is, but okay, right here, the page 26. We're going to build this assembly right here. So you should have this open on one screen. You should have these copied into your folder, and you should have SolidWorks open. I'm going to go to File and go to New, and we're going to begin a new assembly. When you launch a new assembly, SolidWorks is going to immediately bring you to the Assembly tab and ask you to insert the first part of your assembly. I'm going to cancel out of this for a moment and just make sure that we have our origin turned on. So if we go under here, just want to make sure that my origin is visible. I'm going to go back to the Assembly tab, Insert Components, and we're going to pick go to our drive and find our folder that we just copied and pull in our first part. I'm going to view by large icons just so we can take a look at what we're seeing here. And if you look at the PDF that's going to guide us through this process, you'll see that the first part, it's got a 1 here, is this green pin, and it is linked to the origin. All right, tells us to download, open this file. Pins are mated concentric, and it gives us some information with regard to some of the angles associated with these parts. All right, so we want to build this with this being the base. Assemblies, I think, are actually quite easy once you get the hang of it, but the key with the CSWA exam is if you bring in the first part and you don't place it in the origin, then there's no chance of getting it right. So this first step is critical, and I like to have the origin turned on so that you can see what's going on. So I'm going to double click on this part. Just hit OK here. Now, as I'm moving around, I can either drag this part to the origin, or I can hit the check box, which is what I'm going to do, and it's going to automatically place that part on the origin. All right, you can see that it's linked and it matches here. The origin shown here. Now I want you to note that in a bit we're going to talk about the Y and X here, because that's going to be critical as well. So this part, that first part that we bring in, the long pin, is fixed in place, and then we're going to bring in the next parts to finish up this assembly. So we're going to go Insert Components. It's going to bring us right back to this folder. Now I can bring these in one at a time, or I can hold the Control button and select both of them at once. Hit Open, hit OK, hit OK, and click, and then the second time I click, it's going to give me the other pin. Now if I look at the image here, I need 1, 2, 3, 4 of these, 3 of the blue ones, and I need a second green one. I can make all of those simply by holding the control button down as I click on this. Okay, so I need 2 more of those. Again, hit the control button. 1, 2. I'm going to deselect that, select this, hit the control button, drag it, deselect that, select this, and I need 2 of those. So I have all the pieces I need. Alright, if you have your PDF open on one screen, you'll see that this part is the first part that we need to mate. We're going to mate it to this, and we're going to use some smart mates, the concentric mate. So I'm going to select my cylinder first. I'm going to select this, and it's going to automatically put a concentric mate in there. I'm going to accept that. I want to select this surface and this surface, coincident mate. I'm going to select that. Now, this might be a subtle thing that some folks might miss, but you'll see that the orientation of this first part, that the x-axis here is in alignment with this plane. And that's another critical piece of the puzzle, because we're going to try to check the mass properties of this, and we need to get this whole thing started in the right orientation, heading out on the x-axis. Well, how are we going to do that? There's a number of ways to do that. I think the easiest way to do that is to use some planes, and it's often a good idea to apply mates to reference geometry instead of the actual features themselves. So I'm going to go over here and take a look at the plane that's associated with that x-axis. And if I look at the front plane, that would be perfect to use. And then what plane on this particular part is going to be what I need. And if I look here, the front plane of that part also matches. So if I make a mate between those 2 planes and hit OK, you'll see that this part no longer rotates around, and that's what I need. I need it perfectly lined up with the x-axis. Alright, you may want to rewind that and watch that again, because getting that origin, getting this first part started is a critical piece. Okay, we need to put the 3 other yellow pieces in, and we'll just go ahead and do that right away. So I'm going to select this cylinder and this cylinder, and I've got a concentric mate. Hit check. Now I've got to get this guy centered in there. I may or may not be able to do it by hitting these 2 faces. The wise thing to do, if there's any variance in thickness, is to use the width mate. So I'm going to go to Advanced Mates. I'm going to select the width mate, and in this case I'm going to need to select 4 surfaces. These 2, then these 2. It really doesn't matter if I selected the purple ones first or the blue ones first. Going to hit OK, and I'm going to do that a couple more times. We need to put this guy in here, so select this cylinder, select this guy, oops, hit OK. Oh, I'm under Advanced Mates. Got to jump back to Standard Mates and hit Concentric. There we go. Hit OK. Notice that this guy is lined up. These holes are lined up, but I have got to put this in the middle in terms of the width mate again. So I'm going to go back to Advanced Mates, hit Width, select this surface and this surface, and then select these 2. Hit OK. We can worry about the orientation of these in a little bit. I'm going to go back to Standard Mates again, select Concentric, and put these guys in. Remember to check the box, switching back to Advanced Mates and Width. Now I want to make a point. Sometimes you may have accidentally selected something that is not the right face. Oh, that's not the one I'm looking for. you can right click and you can clear the selection, or you can delete that one item. So occasionally you're going to accidentally select something that's not the piece you're looking for. Alright, so select these surfaces. Okay. Got to put the pins in next, and then we're going to set our angles, and the angles are probably going to be the tricky part. Going back to standard mates, concentric, select this guy. Whoops, see, there's an example of what I was talking about. We're going to clear these selections and start with that. Okay, we've got the concentric mate. We want to make sure we hit the cylinder here, and this guy. Can use the edge, that'll be okay. I'm gonna do all my concentric mates first. Hit OK. Hit OK. And I'm gonna switch to coincident. Select these surfaces. Line them all up. Remember to hit the check. What happened there? Okay. Oops, we got to put this guy in as well. So I'm going to select the outside of this cylinder and this. Okay. And these surfaces. Okay. So we're close to being done with this assembly, but we need to set our angles. Right now these things are all free to move around, and we want to set them so that they look like the picture shown here. So we have angle A, angle B, angle C, and don't forget that we originally set this first part so that the x-axis lines up with the center of this part. And let's just read the instructions here. We're going to set these as shown. So these angles, angle A is 25, B 125, and then 130. And then one of these answers is supposed to be the center of the mass of the assembly. All right. So let's go ahead and set angle A. Okay, we're going to set angle A to 25. So under mate, we're going to select, oops, clear that selection. All right, angle, select this. Oops, I'm going to clear that one too. I want this surface and this surface. Notice that SolidWorks has flipped that around. That's not what I'm looking for, and that happens quite frequently. If you click these buttons down here, you may get something that is closer to what we're looking for. Remember, our angle is supposed to be 25. And if I click this button, whoops, try that again. That's not what I want. That looks like it. So try these buttons, see which one gives you the orientation you're looking for. So this comes out and it's got an angle down of 25 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and select that one. Next angle we're looking for is 125, and that's between these two surfaces. You could also select these edges. You could select the front planes of those two parts and set those angles, but I'm going to just select those surfaces. So I'm going to go back to angle mate, select this and this, put my angle of 125 in, and it looks like it's the correct orientation. If it is not, you can play around with those buttons to line it up. And the last one is 130, and that's another angle mate here to here. Angle is 130. Just take a look at the picture. That's coming up That's closed on that side, and that's coming down. I think we have them all in the right orientation. Again, sometimes it may flip things around. Just play with these buttons so that you have it in the correct orientation. And this is the correct orientation. Looks just like the picture. Hit OK. And now we're ready to go in and check the mass properties. Now, I had started this assembly in inches, and I just want to show you that unlike when you're drawing a part, if you make a mistake in an assembly and you have the wrong units, you can change it after the fact. But if you're doing a part, it's not going to work out that way. So what we're looking for is one of these values. I'm going to go to Evaluate and go to Mass, and notice that things are in inches, and notice that in our book we're supposed to be in millimeters, so I can simply come down here and change those to millimeters. I'm going to have to close out my mass properties and relaunch them. Alright, and then let's take a look and see if we're close. Alright, so we're looking for a value of 34865, 34866. That looks pretty close, and that's rounded. Negative 8848. That looks pretty close. Alright, the correct answer is A. Alright, and that takes you through some basic assemblies. I'm going to do another assembly review for the CSWA exam, but I'm hoping you get this one completed in one period.